It is, geez, what is it? It's
I want to
Saturday.
welcome all my peeps.
Yeah, the 21st of April at 2 p.m. And Andy's going to lead us on.
Kind of gonna lead us on, huh?
Something wrong with my clock because it says it's 7 minutes after.
Mine says 9, but that's okay. All right. Welcome.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. If we're recording, right? We're good?
Right, we are recording.
All right.
You are on.
Okay. One of the, and there is a question out there, why do we need to utilize, or why would we ever call a WinDEV application from Clarion? Here's a couple reasons. Number one, if you have a large scale application and you're sitting there looking at it and staring at it and saying, oh my God, I got to convert this over to WinDEV, this is going to take me months. Plus, we got to keep up with everything that's going on and changing everything. We got three, on and on and on and on, which is the situation that we currently have with TCS. One of the things that we can do now is we can actually generate new screens, new items, everything with it in WinDEV and call them directly from Clarion. Okay. So what has happened here is we took the Pascal calling conventions and had a template and set of classes written for Clarion that would utilize those to be able to call WinDEV. Okay. Basically, this is not that difficult. What they do is they use an OLE call called callWD that is embedded within the current WinDEV environment. You can utilize that to call certain WLD files or WDL files. So we're going to go through how to create that WDL file. And basically, you load that by doing the disk load. You have the window you want to open, which is going to be our window. Here is Win Menu, and I'm going to open that. Then I'm going to specify a control that I need to select. I'm going to select it, set it, and this loop here then transfers
Andy,
control.
Can you max that player?
Just a moment. It'll take a second or two to max out. Okay. So, in essence, I can't make it any bigger than that. How's that?
Okay. No, that's bigger. It's just a okay.
Font size is not going to change.
Yeah, you can change the font size. Just hold your control. Oh, this is Windows 6.
This is Windows 7 and Clarion.
Clarion 6, though, right?
Yeah, it's Clarion 6.
Okay.
So deal with it. There are certain things that you can know, and you can reference these directly through underneath the Windows environment. Let me get over to that. You can directly get to it underneath the program files directory of your Windows. You go, and I'm going to take you straight there. We're going to go to PC Soft. We're going to go under Windows 16, and we're going to go to External Languages. In there, we're going to go to Pascal. So you can see here is the listing of items, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to open up the Pascal information and show you the definitions. Now, we had all of these, like I said, we had all of these redone back to Clarion calls, so we've got that pretty straight. What I really want to kind of show you out of this is the actual calls themselves to the program. And let me find that real quick. Should be City Pass right there. Okay. And that is basically the same thing that we're doing here. We're taking the calls that they had and going through them and then calling the information directly from the window. I can actually do information with list boxes, get controls, do whatever I need to do within the Clarion, within the window of WinDEV. Now, what we're planning on doing is keeping this fairly simple. In other words, if, like in this one here, I redid one just to do advanced reports. If I run that program from the directory, and I'm going to run it here in just a sec here. If I run that program and I call the reports, then I open up. This is the same window report that we're getting from WinDEV. So now I can actually run the reports and run the list boxes. You can see here, I can run list boxes here. I can do reports with totals. I can do whatever I want that has already been written in that other program. Now, this advanced reports is one of the example files that comes with WinDEV. So all I did was get it set up to be able to use it. Okay, so let's go through the steps from start to finish, so that way you know how this works and can get some things going yourself. Number one, from the WinDEV project, here's the window that we were working with. This is the same thing. What I want to do is two things. Number one, I want to make sure I know one of the controls on the screen. As you can see, the one control is called Win. The description of it is radio menu. That's what I'm going to select. So I need to know that. Now, if there's a window, on the screen, or a button entry control, you can pick anything you want. You just need something on the screen to select. So I'm gonna be using that. The second thing is if it uses any of the files within your system, then what I had to do was go ahead on this one is open up the analysis. So I did an open analysis. When you call these things, everything has to be in the window. Everything. If you have connection information that's in your global area, or setup information in those places, or you call a global up there before you get to your window, you need to create a local routine that you can run that will do that. And I'm going to show you when we go to the one I built for TCS. But you call a local routine, and that one can call any global routines that you need to call. But everything has to be starting encapsulated in this window. It must be started and encapsulated in this window. Otherwise, you won't connect to your files, you won't open your files, you won't be able to do anything in there whatsoever. Okay? So it has to be done. So all I did was, when I ran it, it says, oh, I need to open the analysis. So I told it, okay, well, I'll go ahead and open the analysis. When I go to the workshop and go to the executable to generate my exe like I would normally do, there is a third tab here that says operating mode of the executable. I want to, usually it's included in the main library. I want an external use of the main library is what I'm looking for. Okay. That external use of the main library creates the WDL file that we use to load with. Okay. And that WDL file is right here. That creates the WDL file, and that is what you're going to load when you load the library. You're going to load that file. So you go ahead and create the the information that you need here. You generate it all. You got it all set up. You've gone through your steps. External use, let her finish, open the generation directory, and what you should have there is you have all the information that was there before. You're all set up. In my instance, I'm doing SQL, so it doesn't matter, but you can see I've got the WDL file right here. You need to copy that and every one of the DLLs that's necessary to be able to run the application. So in the Pascal or in my test area, you can see that literally every one of those DLLs are copied in with it. Basically, the only difference between what you're doing here and what you would normally run is the fact is you're not using the EXE. That's all you're not doing. You're not using the EXE. So from the Clarion standpoint, I'm loading that WDL, as you can see. I'm loading the WDL by doing the call WD. I'm opening that menu, that window that I'm looking for with the extension. You got to use the WDW extension. That's what you saved. If you save the window, you'll see that its extension is WDW. If I need to run a specific procedure, like I'm going to do some setup, that is done by calling the WD execute whatever the procedure name is and then put a .pro afterwards. That tells it is a procedure to execute, and when it executes that procedure, it will run anything within that procedure that it needs to run. You need to select whatever control that you're going to initially select on the screen. You're going to set that control to the that you're selecting it, and you're going to set it to first. The loop, like I said, is then transfers control until the escape key or basically the window's closed. Then you can close the WD and end the WD call on there, and that's basically it. You're done. Compile the program and let it run. This is an extension global template that we have that I built. If you look, or that we had built. If you look under extensions, we've got the WinDEV global declarations. There's nothing to it. You load that on there, and in the window itself, we have an extension called local WinDEV template support, and we generated class name as my WinDEV. Okay, real simple. Compile the program, and we're pretty much ready to go from that standpoint. Get past that.
So, have you tried this yet, Pete?
I've got one young gentleman that is trying it right now, and that is, I'm sorry.
My current environment, I don't need it, Arnold. I would have loved to have had it a year ago. Me and Andy actually
Yes.
more or less did this without this piece a year ago.
Yeah, it was a little bit difficult.
We called an EXE with a bunch of command line parameters and shared information back and forth, and this would have made it a whole lot easier.
So now I've got all the reports and everything with it. Okay, now we're good to go. It's actually fairly simple. Now let me take you through some other things. Part of the deal is you say, well, okay, that's all fine and dandy, but what if I need to pass parameters? What do I need to do? So let's go a little bit more advanced than what I was doing with the simple example program here, and go from there. And
so Andy?
Yeah, go ahead. Ask whatever questions while I switch
So basically, you were creating a DLL on the WinDEV side. And
actually,
yes. You created like an API, right? So you just make a call to that file and you run it.
Correct.
So now you're getting a little more specific by saying, I'm going to call this API, but I'm going to pass parameters for you to go do whatever you're going to do in there. And that's why in that one window, you had to have everything be able to be called, because that was your channel into whatever procedure within.
Correct.
Okay.
And you cannot, I've tried using like a procedure to init everything, then go to the window, and don't work. Basically, it wants a screen to call. Now, whatever you want to do with that screen, don't care, but basically it wants a screen to call. So you have to go to a screen. Okay? So let's go over this, because this is quite a bit more advanced. What this is that we have a project where we go across the web to go to a product called ActiveVent to do work for job quotes. one thing that we needed to pass is we needed to pass certain parameters to it. So what I did was I went to plane number 3 and I created just a simple list box. That list box now holds all the parameters of what goes on. Okay, and basically when I'm going through the code, let's kind of go through that and I'll show you what happens there. The code loops through the Parm list, which is the list box. I get the type and the value because it's a comma deal there, and I'll show you how that works. And if it's a server, I tell it what server I'm going to, the trans ID, the vehicle, database, session, site ID. These are things I need to have to go through this, and I build whatever's necessary on the screen from there. From the Clarion standpoint, and this is going to take just a little bit to load because Clarion ain't that quick. Obviously. Let me get back. Where is my... There it is. Okay. I'm going to close this one and open up my other program. This one takes a little bit longer. What this is a work order system for tire stores. And we're going to go to the screen for the work order system for the tire store. And we're going to have a button that calls. And I'll show you how it all works. Basically, the screen is set up to give all this information, and we have a button here called Estimator that basically calls one routine today. Now you got reason number 29 to switch to WinDEV.
I don't know. We're helping you push this up the hill now.
Yeah, we're pushing it up the hill.
Push harder, Pete.
But all I do is run a validate routine, which calls the process or calls the routine that we're looking for, and I'm going to get to that. It's a little quicker if I just do it this way. Call bridge interface. Now, here's the difference. In here, you'll see that I have these items, okay? Past Parm, I've got a site with a comma and what my site ID is, trans ID, and everything's got a comma and the value. So I'm passing that over there, and I'm telling it to add it to the list box called Parm list. Okay? So everybody can add now by going through this. I can go through the site, the trans ID, the auto ID, the vehicle display information, and my product code, and basically I call it. Then I want to call and do a control to the Parm list because I need that information. And as you can see, I'm calling the procedure called proc act event, and we'll go through that in just a minute. That is my setup. That's basically the entire setup for the other side, and I'll show you how that does. Once I've done that, then I set my control. I set my first on there, and I transfer control to the Clarion application or to the WinDEV application. The proc act event, what it does is it sets up my string to call, sets up my form to get all that information, and starts doing what it's supposed to do. Watch the URL that goes through and basically creates what it needs to do. First thing is get the parms. You can see I'm getting the parms, which I go through this loop. Now to see that all work.
Is that Parm list? Is that an array on the?
No, it's just all it is a list box. That is this list box right here.
So you on that side, you know what order to expect these different.
It doesn't matter what order.
Really?
Okay. No, because what I'm doing is I'm saying since I do the comma, like this would be site ID, comma 1. That would be the value in the list box. Is what it would, if you were to look at it. That's what it would be.
So it's a pair. You're passing
it's a pair.
And every
and so what happens here is the extract of the first value says, oh, that's site ID, and the second one is the value of it, and then I got the whichever one it is that's being passed over, and I got the value I'm assigning to my local variables. Okay? See how that works? Anybody got questions on that before I move forward? Nope. Good. That was it. Okay, so now I've loaded everything in here based upon what's being called. Let me run the program and you'll see how this works. I'll move it over in the way. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and create that work order. Now I'm going to create a new one. I got the vehicle that I'm dealing with. You can see the estimator comes up, but when I press that button, it's gone through all that process, and you can see I've got the parts and labor, active, and here's all the information that I passed to it. It's now connecting across. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you fine, Andy.
Okay, all right. So then I do whatever jobs that I want on this, like brakes, and I put whatever information I want on there, hit the next, and I'm going through that process. Okay. Once that's done, I come back. I've loaded all the information coming back from this process, and since it can exceed whatever I need to exceed, I'm pretty much done with it from there. Okay. And there I've got my information that I got back from WinDEV through the database. I got everything back through WinDEV on that database there. Okay. The templates, you can get the templates if you want them from me. Contact me directly at andy@ccscowboy.com or Skype me at andy_ccscowboy.com. And have we lost our bread and butter dude? Have we lost Arnold? Arnold. We lost Arnold. And I can help you get through this process. Since we had to pay to get these built, yes, we are selling them $50. That's cheap enough. And I'll help you get anything started that you need to start. Skype any questions that you need to have if you like, and I will go over each and every one of them. So anybody got any questions on this? I hear Arnold typing. Or is that you, Arnold? Okay. I heard you typing though, Arnold. I thought it was you typing. Pete, come alive.
Yes, sir.
How you doing? Okay. Since Arnold can't seem to talk to me.
I shut his mic off.
Oh, okay. Good for you.
That's right. I had to hack Skype, but it was worth it.
Hey, Andy. Roberto here.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
What was your Skype username again?
Andy_ccscowboy.com. I'll type it in.
Okay.
Skype. Okay. And you can contact me there, and we'll take care of it. It is pretty neat because I just randomly got some other sections out there. Just went over and got some demo programs and started farting with them, and I got them hooked up pretty easily. So the idea right at the moment is we're going to continue by, like in the instance of running that one, because this is really the absolute coolness of the application. One of the things that everybody wants to run right now is the reports. So I'm going to create a report from it. Okay. So now we're going to start generating out reports from Clarion, from WinDEV for our Clarion application, so we can have all the features and everything from WinDEV that we need. And that's really going to be the cool part. Okay, gives us a heck of a lot of flexibility now that we didn't have before, which is very nice. It's very nice.
Hey, Andy,
Yeah.
what do you call this template?
Well, for the moment, that's a good question. WinDEV TPL is what it's called. We'll call it the CCS WinDEV TPL for lack of a better term.
CSS.
No, CCS.
CCS.
WinDEV.
WinDEV.
That's right.
That's it?
We'll call it that for right now.
Okay.
And this, you know, well, ladies' underwear, that's a pretty good category there. Okay. So this gives us really some excellent methods, and this is one of the things that I wanted to test was this functionality here, so that way we can start writing our reports all in WinDEV for number one. That was really kind of the kicker right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we have new features, like they've been talking about a couple of new features and things that we want to do, we'll write them in WinDEV, and we will just call them in the Clarion if we have to until we start getting everything converted over. Simple.
And you could have gone the other way around, right? You could have built a menu system in WinDEV and call Clarion apps. No, you couldn't.
I don't know. I've not. Somebody said you could call it with a C++ type calling convention, yes, but I don't know that I would.
Probably not as efficient. Huh?
No, because the idea from our standpoint is to take this full-fledged application we have here and move this over to a WinDEV application. Okay. So the idea now is to say, okay, I got a WinDEV application, but I want to use some of the stuff that we've got going on. So the idea now is to
yeah, that makes sense because yeah, that makes sense.
So
I'm just trying to figure out what I can do because reports is its own chunk. I was thinking of doing a data mining type of thing, you know.
Wolfgang, your question, do you access top speed tables? No, I'm actually doing MS SQL. I'm only MS SQL, so I only do that. So I would say, MS SQL, Postgres, MySQL, you can do the hyperfile, but I have not done TPS. Now, you can obviously do it through the ODBC driver if you have it. As long as you can get it, and basically test it all in WinDEV first. I mean, run it as an exe, test the whole thing, make sure it's right, and then whatever you call from them, you're good to go. And that's exactly what I do. One of the things in the program here that is written is up here at the top. In the global declarations of the window, you can see I have the if in test mode. I actually manually put information in and call that procedure. So if I want to test this, just like if it's being called from the Clarion program, I can hit F9 and it will go through that process and do exactly the same thing. And I can hit the F9 and boom, I get, I can get it running. Okay, no problem.
Bingo.
Yeah, it allows me to do quite a bit. You can fully test it out. Yeah.
If anybody has any other questions, raise your hand. Oh, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's just move this out of here. Raise your hand. You raise your hand. Can you guys see how to raise your hand?
It's up at the top. Your far right icon is, a little white guy raising his hand.
Yeah.
So everybody raise their hand so I know you guys can know how to do that. Oh, damn, look at all these hands being raised.
Trying to figure out how to jump up and down. I can't figure that out.
I'll slow you down. So who has questions? Any questions for Andy? Otherwise, we gotta let him go.
I got a question on the passing parameters for the
Yeah.
list box.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be easier to have just
It's Roberto, right?
yes, sorry. Wouldn't it be easier to have two columns and have one for the name of the whatever variable you're using and then the value instead of the comma in case your value has a comma in it?
Yeah, you could probably do that. Sure. I know I don't, so I don't have that problem.
Okay.
Basically, whatever you have as a control that you need to add those to. So let's go back here to the Clarion program. You're doing a list add. You can easily use two fields. You can tell it if you can get to the control. Even if you do as an edit control with bars. I mean, I don't necessarily have to have a comma. I can do it with bars in between because all it is a string. So the extract string, I can switch from comma to something else if I want to. So it's fairly easy to do. It's you can change it however you wish. The reason why I used the list to start with was basically that was the example I had, and we were underneath the gun to get it done. And the one thing about examples, if you got them, use them. So I was really jumping on the fact that I could see in the Pascal program. And let me bring that up again. Let me open that Pascal program up again. Where are you at? Just a sec here, guys. Okay, so the Pascal program that runs this, let me open that up fully. You can see it does this and it does some calls, but it had an example in here of it adding to the city. Okay, and you can put a space or whatever, but it had this example, and that's the reason why I used it. Is just because I needed to get something working. So since this was all new territory for me, doing this, I went by what was laying out in front of me and made it work. And the fact that I put a space in between two, I said, well, I'll put a comma. That way I can use the extract string by comma if I wanted to, but I could put a bar in there or whatever I need to find. Okay. And that gave me some functionality to work with. There is what it did.
So you can create your own delimiter, is what you're saying?
Sure. Comma's just what I did because we're not passing anything. We're only passing headers, and the actual program itself from that then goes through and actually runs different routines to go find it. Like I'll fetch the parms to get the transaction ID, and the first thing that does is that I go get the trans information from it. Okay, so I go select the transaction information I need, so I have everything there that I'm looking for. Okay.
Don't you just love that SQL statement? Oh my God, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
That's one reason to go do it.
Yeah, in a heartbeat. Believe me. Oh, and by the way, guys and gals, I will tell you straight up front, I have returned a data set from a stored procedure in WinDEV. I have done that. So at the moment, I can easily call that, and let me show you how I did that. So that way everybody knows how to do that. Let's see here.
Everybody fainted. That's why it's so quiet.
This is when I get back the information from the XML. The thing I got to do is I got to go parse it all out and put it in the different tables. Okay. In doing so, I execute this process here. That fills in each one of the fields that I'm looking for and the XML data. Okay. The procedure, get to that procedure, and I'll show you the procedure here in just a sec. The next thing I need to do in there is, because I'm returning that, I'm telling it to give me the query items and list the items from the data source. That list items from the data source says these are the fields that you're returning. You're getting a little Benny here. In the fields that you're returning, I'm telling it to retrieve me the first item in the field right there and put it in the sysid. That's what I'm doing. And let me show you the stored procedure and how I'm doing that portion. I create a little table here. These are the fields that I'm returning. And at the bottom, I'm inserting in that table with output inserted asterisk, whatever values I'm putting in. And what that does is basically generates whatever I put in there back to me as a external system. So I get back the sysid to me.
So Pete, does your stored procedures look like that?
Now his ain't that clean.
Hmm.
I've seen him.
It's because it's all lowercase or what?
Yeah. All his is lowercase. But he does some things that I can't do in there. So believe me, I'm kind of leaning, even though I'll do MS SQL for quite some time. But
Don't tell me you're on the fence like me, man.
no, I'm not on the fence. I'm a SQL guy, and you can
Yeah.
call it Sybase, you can call it Oracle, you can call it
Whichever
MySQL.
is the right tool, right?
That's right. The
My stored
SQL portion
procedures
is
are doing more than fancy select statements, Arnold. They're actually doing something.
They actually do some work.
Oh, I cannot believe he just mouthed off that way, didn't he?
Yeah, I can. You know, if it's just a regular select statement, it wouldn't be a stored procedure. Okay.
That's right. See, we can go in and get a little bit further. And this is one thing that I don't know that Postgres can do.
The
That
XML.
right there. Yep.
There's a library that I have not looked at. I don't know how far it takes it, but you know, I definitely would give the nod to MS SQL. But I think
for parsing the
Postgres
XML?
Yeah, it does an excellent job of doing that.
Yeah, Microsoft has decided that XML is the bomb, and they are moving everything to XML.
Yeah. So it is much easier to deal with XML in MS SQL than it is other languages, except for WinDEV. I mean, WinDEV is easy too. But I'd like to see that in Postgres, because that would be something to experiment with for sure.
I know there's a add-on library that does some XML. Like I said, I haven't needed it, so I haven't played with it yet.
Yeah.
But for a
So anybody else got any other
happy to take a look.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, see, it's that
Because I
little
now
key
have
bar.
a Postgres server over here on my deal, along with my SQL server and everything else running.
Well, there should be a Postgres XML extension.
There is. I just haven't played with it to see what all it does or doesn't do.
Back in 2005.
because I have been working with Mobile 17.
Oh, are we
Yes.
gonna stop the recording and start again?
No,
Okay.
I'm not
If
ready
you're
for
done,
that.
yeah. So
I've
I'm
got
gonna
one more
stop.
question.
Okay,
Roberto
go ahead.
here.
Go ahead.
I don't have WinDEV yet. I'm thinking about getting 17 when it's out.
It's out.
Will your templates be working with 17?
Sure.
Okay.
Because I got 17 now.
That's the beauty of WinDEV that you guys that haven't been exposed haven't seen, is they are very good at not breaking everything with each new release. I have no fear of moving up in releases.
Well, the nice thing is we got the French to do the testing for 6 months.
That's true.
Before we,
Yeah.
Right,
See, the
but
French do all the testing.
beyond that, it's not just that whether the IDE GPS all the time or not, but they're very conscious about making sure all your calls are backwards compatible, that they don't break the actual language between versions, where stuff that you used to do now you can't do. With Clarion,
Which is always
that's
a great
much harder to do because of the temp. You know, everyone says, well, it doesn't have the template language. Guess what? Why did all of us third-party developers get frustrated and leave? The template language. It's, you know, they every version they change the template language, which breaks every template. You know, with the way WinDEV works, you don't have that issue. You know, everything is very backwards compatible. I mean, as far as I know, you see a lot of stuff in their documentation. They support all the 5.5 version of WinDEV stuff still.
so
All
are
right.
we gonna have Wolfgang talk about code bricks, or you want to do it?
I know.
No.
Wolfgang, I mean, you know, if he doesn't blow up again, go for it.
Hey, Wolfgang, you ready, dude? Okay. Let's hear how your mic sounds. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Okay.
Any more questions for Andy? Otherwise,
Just when you thought Wolfen was back.
okay. I'm gonna stop the recording now. If there's no other questions. Okay. Stop.